In the last section, I took our Hello World app and deployed it on an emulator and immediately noticed something a little funny about it. It didn't have an action bar, even though I'd requested an action bar. This is a quirk of the wizard at the moment in building an application on Android Studio. So it may be that by the time you're watching this video or building your own applications, that quirk isn't there anymore. But nevertheless, this is an opportunity. Let's make some lemonade out of those lemons. And we'll see why that happened and how I can go about fixing it. So here is my application again. Let me go back to the manifest. And in the manifest, in the application root, one of the attributes of application is theme. And it says @style/app_theme. Now, whenever we see an @ sign, like we saw before with @strings, or string singular, pardon me, that means we are referring to another file, a resource somewhere else. In this case, just as before, when I had a values folder under source main res and looked at the strings.xml, in this case, we're looking at the styles.xml. But to prove it, let me do my command click on @style_app_theme. And this opened a file called styles.xml, and it's actually the one in that folder, in the res folder. It says style name equals app theme. Parent is theme.appcompat.light.dark_action_bar. So it's supposed to be a compatibility library that does have a light picture with a dark action bar. But again, I don't need the compatibility library for this because I'm building an application whose minimum SDK level is 15. So I'm going to change this. Let me remove this, and instead I'll put in Android : and what I want is theme, and then notice there's a pop-up right there. Now, it says theme.holo.light.dark_action_bar. Notice, by the way, that something rather interesting. Normally, that would not have been first in the drop-down because it's not first alphabetically. The ones after it, Holo or HoloLight or HoloLight Dialog when large, those should all come before HoloLight dark action bar. Actually, Holo and HoloLight would come first, and then HoloLight with dark action bar. But regardless, I would normally get alphabetical. Why is this coming up first? Because I use it a lot. And Android Studio, just as IntelliJ does, notices the things I use a lot and prompts before them first. So if I switch to that, now I'm going to get something that is based on gingerbread, or rather honeycomb or above. The Holo theme is part of 14 or 15, and it's used for that and above. So now, if I simply, after making this change, redeploy my application again, you'll see an immediate difference in what it looks like. So I'll run on the current system, and here is my emulator, and then the picture will go away and come back. There it goes. And there it comes back, and now you see I have this Holo theme with the dark action bar. You may have noticed in one of the possible drop-downs, there was also the possibility of having a material theme. We'll come back to that later. In Holo, we get an icon representing the application. We have our title, and then we have the drop-down list with settings in it, which at the moment does nothing. We also have the Hello World right here, the text string that we deployed before. So I got all of that from changing the theme. You can also customize your theme by setting different styles. We'll look at that a little bit later. Now that I have the app looking roughly like I want it to, let me start making it actually do something. Now in the activity main, what I see is a relative layout. Now, relative layouts can be very powerful. The problem with relative layouts, from my point of view, is that every widget needs to be specified where it sits relative to others. And as I'm adding widgets, that can make it a little bit hard to figure. You know, how do I want this to go when I just added that? You know, I may add things in between. It gets a little awkward for me. Relative layouts are fine, but I think I'd rather use what's called a linear layout at the moment. So I'm going to change to linear layout. all I do is I select relative layout and watch as I type in here. Notice it's changing both the open tag and the close tag. And if I hit enter and select linear layout, it's updated both the open tag and the close tag and taking care of that. Now, a linear layout lays out all the widgets either horizontally or vertically. Right now, again, the width and the height are matched parent, and here's my text view for Hello World. What I now want to add to this thing is an edit text, a place for me to type in a name, and then a button so that when I click on the button, it will take that name and update the text view with its value. So let me add an edit text. Now immediately Android Studio says what layout width, what layout height. For the width and an edit text, why don't I make it go all the way across? I'll say match parent. For the height, wrap content seems fine. So now I have a text view with an edit text. I also want to put in a button. A button, I'll put in wrap content for both width and height. And believe it or not, I have now introduced a problem. The problem shows up as a little red squiggle underneath linear layout. Now, if I try to look at the error, it gives me this error message, which I'll have to read to you. I can't seem to magnify it. It says, wrong orientation, question mark, no orientation specified, and the default is horizontal. Yet this layout has multiple children where at least one has layout width equals match parent. Now, that is a world-class error message, but it is an error. What's the problem here? Well, let's take a look at the preview mode. See, my layout appears to be horizontal by default. I've got my text view and then the edit text, which is match parent. So that goes all the way across. I don't see the button at all. So what I need to do is to go into the linear layout and say orientation equals vertical. And now the error goes away. And if I look in the preview mode again, now everything is vertical. And of course, what I notice right away is I don't have any text on the button. Let me leave that open just to show you how easy it is to update. So I will now say text equals, please enter your name. Nah, that's too much in a button. Let me just go say hello. And what I'll do instead is I'll go up to the edit text and I'll put in a hint. Please enter your name. Now, the hint shows up in gray. It's a little hard to tell on the preview, but we'll see it when we run it. When you click inside the edit text, the gray hint will go away. However, both of these are being highlighted as if there was a problem. The problem, such as it is, says hard-coded string. Say hello should use an @string resource. Same problem up here. Hard-coded string. Please enter your name should use an @string resource. Now, there are two keyboard shortcuts you really want to use, you really want to get to know in Android Studio. One is Control Space, which is your code assist. Same one used by Eclipse. Same one that most developers have got built into their muscle memory. The other one in Android Studio is one from IntelliJ called Alt-Enter. Alt-Enter is your quick fix. If I hit Alt-Enter, I've got my cursor inside Say Hello, and I hit Alt-Enter, it says, oh, you want to extract a string resource? And I say, well, yeah, in fact, I do. So I hit Enter, and it says, oh, what's the resource name? And I'll call this my Hello button label. It'll go in file name strings.xml under values. I'll say OK, and now the text says @string/hello button label, and I've removed the hard-coded string from this file. Likewise up here, I'll do again Alt-Enter, extract the string resource. I'll call this my name hint. Goes in strings.xml in the values folder. And now that's no longer a hard-coded string as well. And I haven't changed the IDE in any way, but I have removed that. And again, I've added a layer of indirection. See why we're trying to keep the app simple? All these layers. Okay, now, what do I want the button to do? What I want the button to do is to read the data out of the edit text and update the text view. To do that, I'm going to have to look up these widgets and then pull the data out of the edit text and update the text view programmatically. In order to look up the widgets and access them from the code, I'm going to need to give these IDs. Now, this is a fair amount of code I'm about to write. It's actually not a lot, but this section's already been long enough. Let me do that in the next section where I can add the IDs, put in the code to look up the various widgets, retrieve the name from the edit text, update the text view, and then, just to cap it all off, add a second button to make all of this done similarly in a completely different way. So that'll come up in the next section.